This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net. And today I am talking to a wonderful guest who is in Australia. She got up just early enough for us to do this. It's 5 p.m. Eastern Time here in Cleveland and 7 a.m. Australian time. And what day is it in Australia today?
It's actually September 11 today, so it's Friday
You are
today.
September 11th, and we're still September the 10th. How interesting that is. So, my guest today is Nalini Tranquim, and I just went to your website for the first time yesterday, and you are more than just a musician. You're a writer, and tell us a little bit about yourself because I'm going to make sure that everybody gets to your website as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That was such a lovely introduction. It's wonderful to be here, Karen. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
So I don't even know where to start, to be honest. My father is originally from India. He was raised in Mumbai. His dad was actually a lyricist for Bollywood.
Oh,
So grew up, even as a little girl, grew up with songwriting and poetry very much a part of my life. And my mum is English, and they met in Zambia in Africa, as you do. They eloped, got married, but I was actually born in India. So they had traveled back to India to meet my dad's family and for mum to get used to the culture and the food and the cuisine. And so I was born there, but of course it was a massive culture shock for my mum. So they tried the UK, that didn't work for my dad. So then they ended up back in Africa. So I actually grew up in Zimbabwe, to be precise, and grew up studying piano. I just always had a thing for piano. That was what I wanted to be from the time I was about 4. So studied classical piano for the predominance of my childhood, with a view that I would eventually end up, in the classical arena in London. That was always the objective. So that's a little bit about my, kiddie background. Got a brother and a sister, younger than me. So at the tender age of 18, I jumped on an airplane and left everything I'd ever known to pursue this dream of music, to discover 4 months after arriving in London that I was actually pregnant with my boyfriend's baby.
oh my.
Yeah, so that kind of came as a bit of a, ooh, didn't see that coming. My boyfriend joined me in London, and, we were just 2 kids trying to figure out, how are we going to do this now? I remember living in a dodgy, illegal house share, which cost us £75 a week, and my boyfriend got a dodgy little job down the road for about £100 a week. So we were barely surviving, but we just, we had to make it work. We had this little one on the way, and, but it did put a long pause on the dream of music for me, because who wants a young mum out on the road touring? It just, it wasn't going to happen. So just kind of dived, head on into parenting and being a mum and being a new wife. We got married soon after. And so our journey in London began. And I guess we thought we would always live in London, never envisioned that we would ever end up in Australia, to be honest. But life, I don't know, just has its way, right? It just seems to unravel sometimes without you necessarily having any say, Anyway, we got stuck into life, and eventually I think just this yearning for music just kind of got a hold of me again, and just couldn't ignore it. So even as a young mum, I had to jump back into it because, it was just who I was. Anyway, so got involved in different projects, released a couple of albums. And then we just needed a new adventure about 10 years ago. So we upped sticks and left London and moved to very remote West Australia initially, which was absolutely magnificent. like chalk and cheese in comparison to our life in London, you
Okay,
know, 'cause
okay.
it was a tiny little community along the coast. And it was during our time there that I actually had the opportunity to produce an album with a team in Nashville. So the whole family and I did this tour to America, which was just amazing. Nashville is just the most beautiful place. And I
Sure.
remember while we were there thinking, oh my gosh, we need to explore America. Like this place is just amazing. And so we worked on an album out there and got back to Australia with this idea that, okay, now's the time. We've been waiting all these years, you know, for this opportunity to be able to pursue this musical dream. And we're going to do this Australia tour and, you know, we're going to get this music out there. And it was during post-production that our youngest son, who was about 13 at the time, suddenly out of nowhere just fell severely ill. And it was touch and go for a few days. And we actually ended up packing up our lives in West Australia and relocated to Los Angeles for medical treatment for him, which took approximately 6 months. So we were in the US for 6 months. Complete whirlwind, didn't see it coming, and put my musical dream on hold yet again. And
Yeah,
you do what you do, right? Like I
exactly.
was just in mum mode at that point. So got back from LA 6 months later to try and start over again, and ended up relocating to Melbourne, which is where we are now. Purely really because he needs ongoing medical care, and the medical teams in Melbourne are absolutely incredible. And we've got direct flights as well to LA if we need to, you know, come back and forth. So we found ourselves starting over again 5 years ago. And I felt still having not progressed in the music arena. So still carrying this, I don't know, this weight of frustration that nothing's happened.
Sure.
And then last year, I finally finished a song that I have been sitting on for 15 years from the time we were in London. And it's the song we're going to talk about today.
So let me first ask, how is your son doing?
He is doing exceptionally well, thank goodness. It is a day by day for him, but he's learning to live with it, and he's just going to make the most of the life that he has. So I'm so thankful.
Well, and it sounds like he learned some of that from you because obviously you've had to make those changes in your life and your husband as well. Things, sometimes we plan things and we think they should go a certain way, but we don't always have that control, as you know.
Totally. And you've just got to adapt, right? My hubby says, adapt or die. And it's true. Like, it's true, you
It,
know, because otherwise we could just miss out on so much in life if
exactly.
we allow it to defeat us, right?
So, did COVID, get you off track as well? I know here in the States, we're still battling, with the virus.
Yeah, it's been tough. And Melbourne, I don't know if you've seen in the news, but we have been in such a strict lockdown for quite a while. So for many of us, it almost feels like we haven't come out of the first lockdown in
Right.
March.
Right.
So yes, it's been tough, and it's hit families and it's hit businesses exceptionally hard here in Melbourne. And I'm sure the same for where you are. Um, but I don't know, there's a resilience within the human heart, right? We are so going to fight this. We're so going to get through this. But yeah, we have our good days and we have our bad days.
That's what life is all about. And it shows that, whether you're from India or Zimbabwe or London, England, or Melbourne, Australia, we all have those same life occurrences. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
we need to come together as a people.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that if we get anything good out of COVID, it will be that we are putting our hands out and helping each other.
Yes, I believe that.
So tell me a little bit about this song.
Okay, I'm so excited about this song. So, 15 years ago, so while we were still in London, I remember getting the bridge part of the song, which is I'm falling in love with you, I'm falling in love with you. And I knew even then this is going to be a love song that depicts an unending kind of love, this wild, tenacious love that just does not ease with time. It just lasts the test of time. My hubby and I have been married 22 years, and I don't know, I feel like I love him more now than I did 22 years ago.
Wonderful.
We've been through hell and back together. I mean,
Right.
to be honest with you, towards the end of last year, we honestly didn't think we were going to make it, just with some of the trials that had hit us as a family. And to have come out of that, I don't know, maybe that's why the song has been written now, like finally finished now. But what happened was a couple of years ago, our boy, who, has obviously been living with this life-threatening illness for quite some time now, when he turned about 17, so he was diagnosed when he was 13. So it was already 4 years into the journey for him. The trauma of it had really culminated for him, and he just didn't know how to, I guess, navigate that trauma, and we didn't know how to help him with it. No one tells you, hey, your child needs to see a psychologist, or needs mental and emotional support right now. So, we just didn't see it. He's
Sure.
bright, he's bubbly, he's full of life, but silently he was suffering. He had gotten into the food industry really young, and so was working for a couple of really top restaurants here in Melbourne. And just those different working hours and working with grown men in
Sure.
the industry and working really crazy hours, he slowly started getting into the drug scene. And for a lot of people that's just normal, you just
Right.
live side by side. But for him, it really took a hold on him. And so by the time 2018 and 2019 hit, he was full on addicted. He was on ice, he was on heroin. It escalated extremely quickly for us. I think by the time we realized the severity of it, it was almost as if it was too late. My husband and I had just gotten back from Italy. We were celebrating our 21st wedding anniversary. And we had just arrived back in the country and spent a little bit of time with the boys that evening. We've got 2 sons, and crashed early because we were exhausted, with jet lag as it is. And were woken at 3 o'clock in the morning to the police on our doorstep saying that they had received reports throughout the course of the night that our young one was suicidal, and they needed to cite him and make sure that he was okay. And it really kind of unraveled from there. He hadn't done anything, but it was kind of, I guess, the wake-up call my husband and I needed to the severity of the condition of his mental state. And really it was only long after he eventually admitted that he had a problem and checked into rehab that I spiraled. And I ended up battling depression, was diagnosed with PTSD, was in and out of my psychologist's office day in, day out, felt as if I was going mad. I felt so unsafe. I felt so traumatized by the events that we had experienced as a family. And I think I had this sense of, gosh, if I'm going through this now and I've still got another 30, 40 years to live on this earth, how am I going to do that?
Sure.
And during this time of PTSD, I was too petrified to leave the house. The only place I'd go to was the doctor or to my psychologist. And then I was back home, surrounded by my 4 walls and my piano. And so there were some days where I would sit at the piano and I wouldn't play, but I would just sit at my piano because I don't know, that always felt like that was my safe place.
Sure.
And then just this one morning, that same little tune that I had written 15 years ago, and I'm falling in love with you, and I'm falling in love with you, just resonated again. And I started to play this song and sing this song over and over and over. And it kind of felt like God was wrapping this big cozy blanket around me and telling me, kid, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. And I was raised in the church as a little girl from a young age. My dad converted from Hinduism to Christianity, and he always spoke about this God who loves us, who created us for a plan and a purpose, and has a plan for each one of our lives. And it was like for the first time I realized, wow, I've had this dream to share the love of God through music from the time I was a little girl. And now, 15 years on from the first, essences of this song forming, I've experienced this kind of love, this unending, wild, tenacious love that just has carried me through such trying days. I don't know, it somehow, it's like it just gushed out of me. It was like I knew exactly what I needed to say in that moment, and I'm so excited to share this song with the world. I feel like it's also extremely poignant for the days that we are facing right now. I mean, you just have to look at the news, and you just have to step outside now to see the division and the strife and the grief and the turmoil that we are all living in, right? And I just feel it's a message that we all need to hear right now, that there is this unending, lavish love that is there for all of us, if we can just look beyond what's immediately in front of us right here, right now,
And for everything that you've gone through to even feel this way is remarkable. I mean, so many people don't want to admit how they're feeling.
Yeah.
Um, and I went through that myself a number of years ago. I kept telling myself I was happy, and I wasn't happy. And it was my youngest son who one day said to me, "Stop pretending, Mom."
Oh,
And I looked at him, I said, "I'm not pretending." And he said, "You're not happy." And I
wow.
went and looked in the mirror, and I had to give myself a hard look. Um, and that changed me because he could see deeper in me than I could. But so many of us believe that when we're young little kids, you love the piano, you saw yourself someday becoming, famous and singing on the stage in, London, England. Um, and you are a success whether you played on that stage or not. And that's what we all need to learn. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to hear in this song about love, that it's not necessarily about the riches and the jewels and things like that. It's about, first of all, loving yourself. And
100%.
you must have that feeling to write this song.
100%. I think that's exactly it, is that we, I don't know, we like to have things mapped up in our mapped out in our minds of how things are going to be.
Right.
And then when they don't happen the way that we had envisioned, we almost punish ourselves for it. And I think if anything, we just need to cut ourselves some slack
Absolutely.
and adapt to what is going on around us. I mean, we're having to adapt right now, right? Like, just look at the world that we're in. But can we adapt from a place of joy and fulfillment on the inside of us? I think that is probably the most important thing. By the time I die, I want to be extinguished of life. I don't want to die decrepit and bitter and twisted because of life's blows.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. And it takes a strong person to really decide to live their life that way.
Yeah.
And it is difficult today. We live in a world that um, every city, every county, every country wants to be better than the next. And the reality of it is, you and I are not that much different.
Yeah,
So why does Australia have to be better than the US and the US better than England or anything else? We don't have to be. We
that's
need to
exactly.
come together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like at the end of the day, what is the most important thing? Well, it's our family. It's the love for one another, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
that coming together and just dropping all of that. Like at the end of the day, does that even matter? Does it change us in any shape or form apart from just bringing out the worst in us, that greed and that striving for top dog position? Like, what does that actually do at the end of the day? I almost feel, as horrific as this pandemic has been and the effects of it has been, I almost feel in a way like it's giving us an opportunity to reset and to really ask ourselves, like, what is important to me personally, and what are the things that really count and really matter. And for us, I mean, it's just the time spent with our loved ones and our children, and our Zoom chats with our loved ones that we can't see face to face. At the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? It's about that connection.
Well, and today we are connecting, and people are going to learn about this song. And on the 18th, we will have it on New Cleveland Radio so that people can listen to it. But what we also want people to know is that it's taken you on this journey to finally complete this song. And I know in the music industry, there are so many people who say, oh, I can just get it for free. And my comment is, we shouldn't be doing anything for free. We need to
Yeah,
help each other out. We need to support each other. We need to support you in the beauty of this music so that you'll make more music.
that's
Oh,
beautiful.
good
Thank you
job.
for saying that.
So on the 18th, obviously, you're not going to have a concert.
No.
How are you going to promote this?
Okay, so at the moment, everything's online, right?
Right.
So definitely encourage people to go to my website, sign up to my newsletter, because I love to keep in close contact with my people through my emails. But of course, social media, so Instagram, Facebook, those are probably the two that I'm on. I haven't ventured TikTok, I do confess. I've got to be the worst dancer. I can sit at my piano and I'm great, but ask me to dance, no. So just social media streams. We are going to roll out the video a couple of weeks later, and we're going to host a YouTube premiere where we can all come together and watch the launch of the video at the same time. So I'd love for your people to be able to be a
Oh,
part of that.
absolutely. As soon as we know when it's rolling out, we will publicize it. Um,
Amazing.
wow. And I didn't turn off my phone. Um, so, do you have any real other plans for the future with your music?
So I know once this launch is behind me, I do need to get on book number 2, because the first book is only up until I moved to Australia. So I have got a lot to talk about in my second book, because I really want to talk about our experience with our boy and his journey, and obviously the last couple of years. So I need to get writing. That's probably the next step for me. Definitely some more songs down the line. And eventually I would say probably another full album, because I've just been doing singles for a little while now. But I'm particularly loving my life coaching at the moment. And that's where I get to connect with people one-on-one. That's just been breathtaking, being a part of people's journeys who maybe are at a crossroads, know that something needs to change, but just don't necessarily have the tools to be able to bring about that change in their lives. There's something really powerful about just having some accountability, someone who checks in with you and goes, okay, so where are we at with this, and just someone to come alongside and just love on and just be that support. I'm kind of like a cheerleader to others. So I'm really going to focus more, I think, over the coming years on the coaching aspect, because I love that. I love seeing the transition and the changes in people.
And a lot of people don't understand life coaching, and I'm such a fan of it. We have a podcast with a life coach, and when we do the show, as she calls me, I'm her little guinea pig, because we'll walk through different exercises. And I have changed in the 3 years she's been doing the podcast. She hasn't changed me, but I've changed myself. And
I do not doubt that. Yeah, I do not doubt that.
and
That's
it's
so
wonderful
good.
because, I've been through therapy like most everybody else. And usually the therapist will sit there and say, well, what do you want to do next? And I would look at them and go like, I don't know, you know, but instead, when we walk through an exercise, all of a sudden I get this idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can do that. Or, you know what? I don't want to do that. I learned
100%.
to say that it's okay to say no. And that's
Yeah.
a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, totally. I think one thing that I've learned through the process, just with the different people that I work with, is sometimes you just need someone who believes in you
Yes. Yep.
to be able to take those steps, you know? Um, I've had one lady who, she works in the film industry. She's an editor, and she's been offered incredible projects before, that she wouldn't normally venture, she wouldn't normally take. But I don't know, just through this process of us working together, I think she's beginning to realize the true value of herself. And she's now stepping up and, saying, yes, I'll do it, even though inside she's freaking out, but she's just taking the bull by the horns and she's going for it. I think sometimes we just need that person on the other side of the phone that goes, come on, kid, you can do this. Like,
Absolutely.
let's make this happen. Yeah.
And the nice part about coaching is you're showing us different paths. You're not choosing it for us. We're choosing it for ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just getting that different perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I think also when you're in the thick of trial, and this, my husband and I and my kids, we've experienced this. When you're in the thick of trauma or grief, you can't see the wood from the trees. And so to be able to get somebody coming in who's got that fresh perspective, who's not emotionally involved in this mess that you're currently in,
Right.
who can go, okay, well, what about such and such? It just, just kind of opens up. Oh, okay. Didn't even think about that. Just thought didn't even cross my mind. So yeah, it's powerful. It's a powerful, powerful tool.
Well, I'm so glad we got to meet today. And I'm looking forward to September 18th when your new single comes out. And again, tell us the name of it.
Your love.
Your Love. Well,
Thank you.
we look forward to it. And if you ever get back to the States and are in Cleveland, Ohio, we'd love to put you up. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time.
Have a great day, honey.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.